So today I'm going to be making my famous, famous to me and my family, my sauce. I'm going to be making a sauce for my Sunday dinner, and I'm making it a day early, so it's all prepared because I'm going to be making baked ziti, chicken cutlet parm, and my sauce, because my sauce is going to go into the parm, it's going to go into the ziti, and then I'm also going to have some on the side for everyone to have extra sauce. So I wanted to show you guys just what I make. It's not the healthiest, but it's definitely, goes in the family books of our family style sauce that will definitely be passed down generation to generation. But I have no problem sharing it with you guys. I hope you like it. I'm going to start with some ingredients to let you guys know. I personally like the two to rosso tomatoes. I start with Okay, so this is actually a really big recipe, so you can cut it down. I'll tell you, if you're doing a regular sauce just for you and maybe 2 or 3 other people, you only need 2 cans. These are big cans. These are the 28-ounce cans. So for these, you can use 2. Today I'm doing a big family gathering tomorrow, so mine is going to be 4 of crushed tomatoes with basil. And then for every 2, I use 1 can of tomato sauce. So today I'm using 2 cans of tomato sauce because I have 4 of the 28 of crushed tomatoes. 1 can of tomato paste. I bought a second can. Now this one is only the 6-ounce. I bought a second can just in case. This is to make it a little thicker. So that's going to kind of have to be your personal preference if you want to make it a little thicker. I'm probably going to use, honestly, 1.5 cans of this. And then I have 1 can of whole peeled tomatoes, only because I've been trying it lately in my sauce, and it's actually really nice to have just a few little whole tomatoes in there. That's just my personal preference. That is my sauce. And also 2 cans of tomato. Yeah, I said that, tomato sauce. Okay, so you have that. So that is fully just for the sauce itself. I always do a meat sauce. If you don't want a meat sauce, that's all you're going to use. If you do a meat sauce, you're going to have to brown a pound of meat. Today is still a pound of meat because it's a lot of meat, and I want my meat sauce not to be too thick because today I'm making ziti with the sauce, and I'm also making my chicken cutlet parm with the sauce. So you really don't need meat at all in it, but I personally put meat in it just because I like the flavor of the meat, and I also use turkey meat because I try to just make it a little bit healthier just because I'm an instructor and stuff, but it's not necessary. People say they like the flavor more with chopped meat. I personally like turkey meat because, again, I'm trying to make a regular sauce very light because I'm using it for other stuff. All right, but it still goes with the same recipe as how I do it each time. I will also do a screenshot where you can see what my grocery list is also. So let's get started. What you're going to need is 1 chopped large onion, 2 cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic, 2 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes, 2 16-ounce cans of tomato sauce, 2 16-ounce cans of whole peeled tomatoes, 2 8-ounce cans of tomato paste, 2 teaspoons of basil, parsley, adobo with pepper, oregano, Italian seasoning, 2 bay leaves, 4 teaspoons of sugar, and 1 pound of turkey meat chopped. All right, so to start, I used 1 large onion because you don't need too many onions. This is my handy dandy chopper, so I can chop up my onions. You see, my onions are nice and chopped. So then you take about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, EVOO, and you put it in my pot on medium high. I would go medium high. You put that in the, you take about 2 tablespoons of EVOO, you put it at the bottom, make sure it layers, make sure it coats the bottom of your pot. You're a big pot. And then you're going to take 1 whole onion, you're going to chop it up, cut it up, whatever you need to do. I cry easily from onions, so I'm already crying, and I didn't even cut them myself. You're going to chop them. You use a chopper, you can cut them up yourself, whatever you need to do. Let that start cooking, and as that's cooking, you're going to take 1 full, well, you're gonna take 2 cloves of garlic, cut them up, put them in there, and then add a teaspoon of your chopped or minced garlic, whatever kind of garlic you want to use. All these garlics are pretty much the same. Yes, a lot of people don't like to use the ready use because they feel like there's extra stuff in there. So I do a little of both because I like the fresh garlic, but I also like, I don't want to cut up too many of the cloves. So I cut up 2 cloves right now. It's not really that much, so now I'm going to add about, not a full tablespoon, but a good amount of garlic. Throw it in there. Again, I'm making a double dose today, so I'm going to give you, I've decided, I'm going to give you the recipe of my double dose, and if you decide to make less, again, just half all of my ingredients. So we all got that covered. So now, while it's at the bottom of your pan, you don't really want to have that much oil because you don't want to coat it. You want to coat everything, but you don't want the entire thing to just be oil because you're going to have to take the oil out at some point anyway. So let me show you what it's doing. You want to brown it a little bit. Right now it's just beginning, so there's really nothing to it. But what you're going to do is you're going to let that onion brown. And once the onion browns, then you're going to be done and it'll be time to add your tomato sauce. All right, so let's get this browned. All right, so I've been letting this brown a little just so you can see. I want you to understand that when I say brown your onions, I don't mean burn your onions. So let me show you what I mean by brown. Very light, nothing, crazy. Just get those cooked a little bit just to get it kind of started. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So that while that's done, I lowered my flame to medium, just right in the middle, medium, okay? Now I'm going to start with my crushed tomatoes, my can of crushed tomatoes. I'm doing 4 cans. You put them in, bring them low because you don't want them to splatter everywhere, although I did put on my Wonder Woman apron just in case it splatters. So you're going to put in your 4 cans of that, crushed tomatoes. After you put in your 4 cans of crushed tomatoes, I'm going to put in my 2 cans of tomato sauce. There really is no order as to the cans of sauce and stuff. I just like to make sure that tomato paste is last, just because it's the thickest of them all. So you kind of have to scoop it out with a spoon, and then outside of scooping it out with a spoon, you also have to mix it up at the ends and really get it in there to make sure it all mixes together. Now I'm adding my 1 can of whole peeled tomatoes. Actually, I'm doing 2 cans of these, but do 2 cans. Well, if you're doing the big, again, it'll be listed. You're just not seeing me do it right now because I forgot to open that extra can. And here goes our tomato paste. This is the part where it gets really fun. Okay, so I have all my sauce in here. I want you guys to look at the top of the pan. It's very important. Oh, my son woke up, so you'll hear him. Yes, go. So at the top of your pot, when you put all of your tomato sauce in and your tomato paste and whole tomatoes or whatnot, you will have this little ring around the top. You can see it right here. It's a little ring. What that is your oil that actually you started with your onions and garlic. So you are going to not really want that much of that oil in there. So what I do is I take my spoon, I lay it on top of it, and it pulls the oil into the spoon, and I get rid of it. Just pour it into the sink, I pour it into my tomato cans that are empty, and I get rid of it that way. Try to get up as much of the oil as you can. You don't have to get it all up. It's just a matter of preference. But personally, I like to take as much oil out as I possibly can. And again, remember, that's why I also only layer the bottom with oil, because it's less to clean up after my tomato sauce comes in. All right, so I'm going to pull, I think I did the most. I think I got most of it up. Looks like it all went to one side also, which is great. It's a great thing. Yeah, so I think that's perfect. A little bit over here, and perfect. And now as you're looking, you see that all that oil is gone. So now that all of that is done, now we'll do the fun stuff. We're going to start mixing the entire thing together. So we have our paste, we have our whole tomatoes, we have our tomato sauce, and we have our crushed tomatoes. So we start mixing this up, and then one of our first ingredients, which is, most people who make sauce all the time know this, and know this as a golden rule from day one. Some people who are not really good at making sauce or don't know how to make sauce or still can't figure out why the sauce isn't turning out the way they want it to be is because your secret ingredient is actually sugar. Reason being, tomatoes are very metal tasting, I guess you can say, if you have them without the sugar put in them. So this is teaspoons. I put in about 4 teaspoons, again, because of how much I'm making today. And again, after you're done, later on, I'll show you after you're done mixing it all up and after it's cooked, and it's going to take a while because it's going to simmer. So now you're going to keep your flame on medium until it starts boiling. Be careful when it starts boiling, because when it boils, it doesn't boil like normal boiling water. It actually pops. So when it starts boiling and it starts popping, it could get messy. So what you really want to do is bring the flame down right as soon as it starts popping. All right, and then you bring it to a low flame. I call it a medium low because you're not making it too low, but you are going to let it simmer for a couple of hours. So now that all of that is done, I'm going to use my seasonings. I do some oregano. I'm going to tell you, I don't really go crazy with my seasonings the way most people do, but I eyeball it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I use about a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of parsley. Ooh, didn't come out of parsley. No, I have more up top. Teaspoon of parsley. I use Italian seasoning, which is a bit of parsley and oregano and everything, basil and all that lovely stuff. So that's why I do a teaspoon of that. It's just kind of adds, so it's almost like putting 2 teaspoons in, but I like to add. At this time, honestly, just have fun with your seasonings. Pick the things that you like. Pick things that you want to put into a sauce, because this is what's going to make your flavoring, but to me, it's the fact that you put the sugar in is more than enough. Now for my personal favorite, and this is where everybody thinks I'm crazy, but nobody complains about my sauce and everybody loves my sauce. Adobo. I am obsessed with adobo. I put it in everything I ever eat in my life. Go with 2 tablespoons. No, 1 tablespoon. I'm sorry. Please do not go with 2. 1 tablespoon. Again, this will all be written on the site. And then I use 2 bay leaves. Again, 1 if you're halving this, or if you're doing only half of this. 2 bay leaves. You think bay leaves do nothing? Ha! They do a lot. Take all of that. The reason why I use adobo is for this sheer purpose, and if you don't want to use adobo and you just want to stick to the Italian portion of this recipe, that's fine. What I'm going to tell you to do is make sure you add that salt and pepper, because that's what my adobo has in it. So I don't go crazy with the salt and pepper. Because of that, you can, if you do not choose to do adobo, add your own salt and pepper. I still add salt and pepper, but not a lot. Not even a half a teaspoon, not even. And then with your pepper, I have my black peppercorn. I do not a lot. It's really a very small amount. It wouldn't even be close to a half a teaspoon because of my adobo. My adobo, I have an adobo with the red cap, which is an adobo with pepper. So the adobo has the salt, the pepper, it has garlic seasoning in it. You know, it's all your basic seasonings, so I kind of feel like for me it works very well. Remember when I first met my husband's family and they came over for dinner one night, not when I first met them, when they came over for dinner one night, his father had asked me like, "Oh my God, what do you put in your sauce? This is so delicious." And what I said was adobo, and he looked at me and cracked up laughing, but never complained, because you know why? Because he liked the taste of it, and that's what I do. But again, that's my personal preference. I love adobo. I grew up with adobo, and I put it in. It's my go-to seasoning for almost everything I cook. All right. So while that boils, while I'm waiting for that to boil, during this time you're browning your meat. Hopefully, I obviously wrote it in the beginning. After your meat is browned, you pour the meat in. Cover it up, simmer it for a couple of hours, and that's really it with my sauce. So let me show you the meat and how I do that, and then we'll go from there. Turkey meat, I did 1 pound. I put it in my pan. I put it on medium high, And you just take your spatula and break it up. This is going to take a lot of work because you are just breaking it up and breaking it up and breaking it up. You don't want it to really ever stick together because you're not making patties, you're making a meat sauce. So that means that your meat is going to have to be all broken up into little pieces. So you're chopping your chopped meat. I'm using turkey meat because I find it to be a lot leaner for the sauce. Just makes it a lot leaner and easier for the sauce. So keep an eye on it. Again, my own personal preference, I add a little bit of adobo to it for seasoning, also for what's going into the. I just cover it a little bit more. I love my adobo. Just cover it up, let it start cooking. It's gonna take a few minutes, but so the first time around you just kind of let it sit there, but you really don't want to take your eyes off of it. This is something that you're going to be standing over and covering and mixing around the whole time. Again, it's not really going to stick together, but if you leave it long enough, it will. Again, some people can also decide to chop it up after it's done, but I don't like it one big patty, you know, and then chopping it up. So I like to chop it up throughout the entire time of cooking it. So now that my meat is pretty cooked, I like to try to make all this water kind of evaporate to the most that it can. Honestly, I like it to be completely cooked, but I also want you to know that once you put it in the sauce, it's also going to sit in the sauce for about 3 hours. So when it sits in the sauce, it's also cooking. So again, I'm just weird with meats. I don't like to have anything pink. I don't like to see anything pink. So with that, I try to cook it to its fullest before I even put it in the sauce. Some people may do it when it's still a little pink because, again, patience. I like patience. More because I'm just weird with meat. That's just my own personal thing. So now if you see all the meat is no longer pink, I chopped it the whole time I was doing it. So you see it's all just little pieces, shredded turkey meat. So now that that's all ready, I'm just going to take it and put it in my sauce. And then mix up my sauce. And then on a regular basis, if you're doing a single serving, I would not add any more seasonings to my sauce. But because we are doing a double serving, I'm going to add some more stuff to my sauce. Again, it's just the same ingredients. I'm going to do another teaspoon of each. So a teaspoon of parsley, teaspoon of basil, teaspoon of oregano, a little bit of Italian, also a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and then my adobo. Try not to get the juices in. You'll see I have a lot of juices at the bottom. Don't put the juices in the sauce. You know, we spent all that time getting the oil out of the sauce. You definitely don't want to put all the juice in the sauce. Alright, so that's all done. I'm just going to mix my meat in here. If you notice, it's nice and steamy now because it just, perfect timing, just started to boil. So since it's boiling, as soon as I'm done mixing it, I'm actually going to cover it, simmer it, and when you do a simmer, you put it on as low as it can go. You just put the flame on or your electric to number 1 or number 2. 2 would be the highest. I would not put it any higher than 2, but I would personally put it on number 1 if it's electric. If you have a regular stove, just put it at the lowest. I mean, mine has the number 1 also, or low. You keep it as low as the flame as low as it can go, and I let it simmer for about 3 hours because it's got to thicken up and everything like that. And every like half hour to 45 minutes, you're gonna come over and you're gonna mix it some more. And when you mix it, as you're getting closer, like within the last hour, like one of the last times you're gonna be stirring it, taste it. If it tastes like it needs more salt, add a little bit more salt. If it tastes like it needs a little more sugar, add a little bit more sugar. I think the sugar is pretty covered though. But when it comes to seasonings, again, preference. When it comes to a sauce that becomes your sauce, always make it your preference. My preference personally is very light. I don't like to go crazy with all the seasonings, but I know like my sister, she likes rosemary and thyme. Not that she would put that in her sauce, but you know, some people really like oregano. So that means pour all the oregano in you need. Don't mind my Apple Jacks. My son decided he needed his Apple Jacks when he woke up from his nap. So that's about it. So now, wait, I'm going to put my flame on low because it's boiling. I'm going to cover and simmer on top. I think I'm about done. Easy as that. So now that that's done, I'm going to get started on my chicken cutlet parm. It's going to be separate, but I'm going to need the sauce in order to make my chicken cutlet parm, so I will make that later when the sauce is done. Be careful. So, it only took 2 hours, which is perfect. Again, don't forget to taste it, try it before you stop your flame altogether. Again, after it being on low flame, you know, whatever, you'll see it boiling, popping a little. And what you do is, as you check every half hour to 45 minutes, you check it. As you scrape along the bottom with your plastic spoon, of course, when you scrape along the bottom, you'll feel it start getting hard. It's going to be very watery up top when it first, while it's boiling, so that's why you can't really go by the top. But as you're mixing it, if it feels like it's getting harder at the bottom, that's when you pretty much know it's done in my eyes. You know, like for me, it started feeling hard. And also, if you look, it's your sauce. So now, I also tasted it to make sure it was all good, and it tasted fine. I actually didn't have to add any more ingredients to it. You may want to. You know, again, everything is your preference. You know, you're making this your sauce. You're making this your special homemade sauce. So this is my homemade sauce, and now it could be your homemade sauce. And honestly, make it to your preference. Taste it. Add things, subtract things, but it's always going to be your preference. So now that my sauce is complete, now that your sauce is complete, you're going to move that to the back of the burner, shut it off, let it cool off. You can freeze half of it, you can refrigerate it overnight. Freezing is really good because that could last you for weeks, because all you have to do is defrost it the morning of, that you know that you're going to, you know, make it that night. I have the baby running around now. So now I'm going to make another video. Second video is going to be my chicken cutlet parm. Third video is going to be my baked ziti. So they're going to intertwine in some way, but they're going to be separate videos. So this is where you begin with your sauce. Then we go to our chicken cutlet parm, which is going to be with the sauce. And also baked ziti is made with the sauce. So this is video 1, and it's going to have 2 other parts to it. I hope you enjoyed it today. I hope it helps you out, and I hope that you really enjoy it. I am officially 24 weeks pregnant today, yay! So I am definitely ready to eat this tonight because I'm starving. Baby's cravings today are more on the sauce side than the sweet side, so it actually worked out really well for me to make this sauce. But anyway, thank you, honey. My son is handing me cloth, so let me go before he ruins the house.